I'm here today chatting with Yvonne Griese. She's a cognitive behavioural therapist and also the author of a book called Across in Time. And it's a fictional book, but it's actually about God and his manifest plan for all of us through generations. So it's lovely to speak with you, Yvonne. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Annette. It's lovely to join you and be able to speak to you about the book.
So let's talk about Across in Time. Can you give us a brief rundown of what the book's about?
I was coming from the point of view of a big picture concept. I think that that's something that can be lost nowadays, a bigger picture of thinking how things are happening. And so that's where I was coming from, the concept that over several generations, God is doing a work in and through people, and that it's not just something that happens in a few minutes or a few hours, but he works long term and long range, and is ultimately in control. And so even though there's the interactions of people and how they're choosing to act as a result of what's happened to them in their lives, they still have the freedom to make choices and decisions, and also the things that are happening are ultimately being worked together towards a divine and bigger purpose.
No, I think
that's what was driving me.
You've hit the nail on the head there with the fact that we are an instant gratification society. So the idea that, God exists outside of time, he's so much more patient than us, and things that we're going through for a time can feel like they're forever, but they're actually part of an overall plan. You actually, through this book, you track 3 generations to see God's plans manifested. And so, it's really understanding that what happens to us isn't about here and now and just this one moment, but how it plays out and ripples into eternity. And also the mistakes that we make can be used for good, and you do cover that in your book as well, that it's not all roses and sunshine, but God can still use that. So how do you sort of follow that storyline through the book?
Yes, I think it's really crucial to me. I was very fortunate to have known 3 of my grandparents, and through them to know a lot about my great-grandparents, and to see my own parents and choices they were still made within the things that had happened to them. They'd been through depression, through war, and that I'm fascinated by things that are passed on, how people can rise up out of their circumstances, and others just buckle under them. And in the middle of that, the spiritual influences that are going on as well. So I think something that a lot of people aren't aware of is the spiritual dimension that's operating around us while we're making those choices and decisions. And that is a very, very real thing, and a very powerful thing. And the more we can understand that, the more able we'll be able to understand what's happening around us and through us.
So you've spoken about the 3-dimensional way that our stories play out. Do you want to just break that down for us and explain it?
Yes. So there's the interaction of people and the decisions and choices they're making, and how different circumstances in life are perceived by individuals, the beliefs they come to as a result of the things that have happened to them. And so there's that ongoing thing that's happening, but also there's the angelic and demonic realm that is operating also, angels that have assignments around people, and demonic influences that also have assignments, and that is going on in another dimension as well. But at the same time, God is over the whole picture and is working all of that together to bring about what he wants at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I come very much sort of having lived on a lot of generations now to realise how there is a much bigger picture to life than I would have thought when I was 20 or 30.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess with the work that you do as well, you would see people who obviously have recognised that there's been an unhealthy pattern in their family story and want to work towards breaking that pattern to you know, I guess move forward in following generations, breaking bad patterns. So, you know, what would you say to somebody that's come out of perhaps a bad family situation or a difficult time in their life, and you know, what hope is there for them?
Well, the people that I've mainly worked with have been survivors of abuse, particularly sexual abuse, and they're called survivors because they've survived something that's absolutely horrific, and that is really a form of murder of somebody's soul, really, and they have managed to survive it, but they've come to a point where they've hit a brick wall, and they need help in order to move past that. And there's always shame around it, and I think a huge element for anyone who's been in abuse is to realise that they were not to blame, that they were in but the feeling of being disempowered is overwhelming, and so to somehow find forgiveness and peace about the fact that there was another person who was in control at the time, the situation, begin to forgive themselves and begin to unravel how the wounds have affected them, and bring about changes in attitude and beliefs, really, change the beliefs about what happened and who they are.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Yvonne, and it really is a wonderful book, so I encourage everyone to grab a copy and sit down with a cup of tea and have a good read. Thanks, Yvonne.
Thanks so much, Annette. Thank you. Appreciate it.